She crash-landed from the stars, the last hope of a fallen alien kingdom, wounded, alone, and hunted by a ruthless enemy across galaxies. But deep in Earth's wild forests, she was found not by soldiers or scientists, but by a forgotten stray dog. What began as survival became something far greater, a bond between worlds, a fight for peace, and a journey that would unite the stars with Earth in the most unexpected way. This is not just science fiction. It's a story of courage, loyalty, and a friendship that could save two worlds. If you are new here, then please subscribe this channel and show thumbs up by liking the video. Now let's move toward this wonderful story. The stars above Earth glowed peacefully, quiet and distant. But far beyond what the human eye could see, chaos filled the void. A small spacecraft, silver and elegant once, now shook violently as it tore through space. Inside the damaged ship sat a young woman, Kayla, the last daughter of the royal family of Nuvira, a planet known for its harmony and advanced science. Her fingers trembled on the controls. Her face was pale, her breathing unsteady. The lights on the control panels flashed red, alarms echoing in her ears. She had never felt fear like this, but she could not allow herself to give in. Her people were counting on her. She had escaped the brutal military faction known as the Jara Syndicate, who had taken control of her world in a surprise coup. Now she was alone, a fugitive among stars, running from destruction with little more than her name and the knowledge she carried. The ship's computer spoke in a calm, robotic tone, though its message brought no comfort. Main engine failure. Fuel levels critical. Recommend emergency landing. Kayla bit her lip and glanced at the nearest habitable planet on her screen. A small green and blue orb marked Earth. It wasn't an ideal choice. This planet had not yet reached interstellar communication. She knew very little about its people, its rules, its dangers, but she had no other option. "Prepare for emergency landing," she said, her voice cracking. The ship groaned as it entered Earth's atmosphere, flames licking the hull as it descended too fast, too hard. Kayla tightened her grip on the controls, teeth clenched. The planet's gravity pulled her down like a hand gripping her ship and refusing to let go. The trees came into view, tall, dark, and endless. The forest below stretched as far as her failing sensors could detect. The moment of impact came with a sound that would have made anyone's bones shiver. Metal tore, branches snapped, and fire scattered across the forest floor. The ship tore through a line of trees, leaving a trail of destruction until it finally came to a violent halt. Smoke rose into the air. The forest, once peaceful, now carried the heavy silence that follows disaster. Inside the wreck, Kayla lay motionless. Her silver suit was torn, her skin bruised, and a thin trail of blood ran down her forehead. The emergency beacon blinked weakly, barely sending a signal beyond the thick canopy. Miles away, a scruffy brown dog lifted his head. Togo, as no one called him anymore, had been abandoned here months ago. He was once someone's pet, maybe even loved. But humans left him behind, and he had learned to live alone. He was thin but strong, clever and cautious. But that day, something unusual caught his attention. A sound and smell he had never encountered. The wind brought a strange scent that pulled at his instincts. Curiosity and something deeper, a feeling he didn't quite understand, moved him to his feet. He padded through the woods, nose low to the ground, ears twitching. By the time dawn broke and soft light filtered through the trees, Togo had reached the crash site. Smoke still rose from the broken vessel. Strange pieces of technology lay scattered among the roots and leaves. He moved carefully, sniffing, watching. Then he found her. Inside the wreck, Kayla was still unconscious. Her skin was pale. Her hair, silver like moonlight, was tangled with debris. Togo tilted his head. He sniffed her hand, then gently nudged it with his nose. No response. He let out a soft whine and lay down beside her, his warm body pressed close. He did not know who she was, but he felt that she needed someone. He had been alone long enough to know what that felt like. Hours passed. Birds returned to the trees. Life slowly crept back into the forest. Kayla's eyes fluttered open. Her vision was blurred, her head heavy. Pain shot through her side as she tried to move. The first thing she saw was not her broken ship or the unfamiliar sky. It was a pair of deep brown eyes watching her quietly. She gasped, her muscles tensing. Her translator chip worked to process the situation. Was this creature dangerous? Was it native to Earth? The dog tilted his head but didn't. Move closer. His tail wagged once. Kayla took a shaky breath and slowly lifted her hand. The dog sniffed it again, then gave it a small lick. A smile crept across her face. Her first in days. "Thank you," she whispered, though her voice was weak. "I suppose we're both alone out here?" With effort, Kayla pushed herself into a sitting position. The pain in her ribs warned her to move slowly. Her vision cleared enough to see her surroundings. Her ship was beyond repair. Trees surrounded them in all directions. The planet was more vibrant than she had expected. The air was thick with scent and sound. Earth was wild, untamed, and yet strangely beautiful. The dog stood and trotted a few steps away before pausing, looking back at her. Kayla frowned, then looked around one more time. There was no point staying with the wreck. She had to find help. Safety. Anything. And she had only one companion she could trust right now. "All right," she said quietly. "Lead the way." With a deep breath and one hand pressed to her aching side, Kayla followed the dog into the trees, uncertain of what waited in this strange new world. She had fallen from the stars, but maybe, just maybe, she had landed exactly where she was meant to be. Kayla moved slowly through the forest, each step a struggle. Her muscles ached, her wounds throbbed, and her senses were still reeling from the crash. The dog trotted ahead of her, weaving through trees and pushing through bushes, with ease. Every few minutes he would stop and look back at her, his warm brown eyes watching to make sure she hadn't fallen behind. Kayla had no idea where he was leading her, but she followed. What other choice did she have? Her ship was a smoking ruin. Her home planet was light years away, and she was completely alone, except for this dog who had chosen not to leave her side. As they moved deeper into the woods, Kayla couldn't help but study the world around her. Earth was unlike anything she had seen. The forests were thick, filled with strange smells, rustling sounds, and tall trees that reached toward the sky. On her home planet, Nuvira, the landscape was dry and open with glowing crystal plains and soft winds. Here, everything was wild and noisy. Birds chirped overhead, insects buzzed past her ears, and something small skittered through the leaves. It was overwhelming at times, but also oddly comforting. Earth was alive in a way she had never experienced. The dog, though scruffy and clearly used to surviving on his own, had a quiet confidence about him. He seemed to know the forest well. Kayla watched as he sniffed out safe paths and avoided thorny plants. At one point he even barked softly to stop her from walking straight into a hidden dip in the ground. She paused and stared at him. "You really are smarter than you look," she said. He wagged his tail like he understood her. By the time the sun had begun to dip low in the sky, casting long golden beams through the trees, the dog led Kayla to a small forgotten cabin. It looked old, maybe once used by a forest ranger or hiker. The wooden walls were weathered, the roof partly caved in, but it still stood. Kayla approached it with caution. Her fingers hovered over the door before she pushed it open. Inside was dusty and dark, but the place was dry and offered shelter. There was a broken table, a few worn-out chairs, and a rusted lantern in the corner. Still, it was better than being exposed to the elements. She turned to the dog, who stood just inside the doorway. "I guess you found us a home," she said, "at least for now." They worked together in a way that surprised Kayla. The dog, without being asked, began bringing her sticks and dry leaves. She took them and started building a makeshift bed in the corner. Her training in survival had never been tested like this. On Nuvira, she had machines and assistants for everything. Here she had only her hands, and a four-legged friend who seemed to know what he was doing. When night fell, the forest changed. The air grew cooler, and the sounds outside became louder. Owls hooted in the distance. Strange howls echoed through the trees. Kayla couldn't tell if they were nearby or far away. Her hand drifted to the small energy weapon she had taken from her ship. It only had a few charges left. She would have to be careful. The dog curled up beside her, pressing his body against hers for warmth. She hadn't realized how cold she was until then. For the first time since leaving her planet, Kayla felt something close to safety. She reached down and stroked the dog's fur. He lifted his head and gave a soft grunt, his eyes slowly closing again. "I should give you a name," she said quietly. She thought for a moment, remembering a story she had once read about an Earth dog who had led a rescue team across ice and snow. "How about Togo?" she asked. The dog didn't respond, but his tail thumped gently against the wooden floor. Kayla smiled. "Togo it is." In the days that followed, the bond between Kayla and Togo grew stronger. He stayed close to her, always alert, always watching. He led her to a stream where she could drink. He sniffed out berries and small plants, some of which her scanner confirmed were safe to eat. Once he even scared off a snake that had slithered too close while she was resting. She began to talk to him, not because she expected answers, but because it helped her feel less alone. Kayla was slowly healing. Her body, strengthened by Nuvira's advanced biology, mended faster than a human's would have. The cuts on her arms faded, the bruises lightened, and her strength returned bit by bit. She used her broken tools and limited technology to scan for signs of life or help. The results were weak and unclear. Some energy readings popped up, but nothing she could trust. Still, she didn't give up. She had survived the crash, escaped the Jara syndicate, and found a friend in the most unlikely of places. One night, as she sat outside the cabin under the stars, she looked up at the sky, wondering if anyone on Nuvira was still fighting for what was right. "We'll find them," she whispered. "And until then, we survive." Togo rested his head on her foot. Kayla smiled and reached down to pet him. In this quiet corner of a foreign world with no titles and no crown, she felt something she hadn't in a long time: hope. The morning sun crept through the trees, casting long shadows across the damp forest floor. Kayla sat just outside the cabin, her back against the wooden wall, eyes scanning the trees. Her breath fogged lightly in the cool air. Togo lay beside her, his head resting on his paws, ears twitching at every sound. Days had passed since the crash, and although Kayla had started to feel stronger, she was still alone in a world she barely understood. Her food supply was low, and her scanner's battery was nearly gone. She knew she couldn't stay hidden in the forest forever. She needed help, human help. That morning, while scanning with the last bit of power left in her handheld device, she caught a signal. It was faint, but it was there. A sign of human technology, possibly a small research unit. Her heart jumped. She stared at the screen, holding her breath. It was about 2 miles to the east. Carefully, she packed what little she had, checked her weapon, and turned to Togo. "Ready for a walk, boy?" she asked. He stood at once, tail wagging. Whether he understood her words or not, he seemed to understand her intention. Together they left the cabin behind. The forest thickened as they moved, the undergrowth becoming harder to step through. Kayla kept her eyes sharp and her pace steady. Her body had healed, but she still moved with caution. Togo stayed close, pausing now and then to sniff the air or listen. They crossed a shallow stream and climbed a small hill before Kayla saw something that made her stop. Through a break in the trees, she spotted a camp. 3 tents, a fold-out table, and boxes of equipment. A drone hovered overhead, scanning the nearby plants. Humans. Real, living humans. She dropped to the ground, her heart pounding. This was the moment she had been preparing for, and yet fear filled her chest. What if they ran from her? What if they thought she was dangerous? She wasn't like them. Her hair, her skin, her clothes, they would all seem strange. She looked at Togo, who was watching her calmly. She took a deep breath. "We have to try," she whispered. Kayla stepped out from the trees slowly, keeping her hands open and empty. Togo walked beside her, relaxed but alert. The people at the camp were busy, talking and working until one of them noticed movement. A young woman with dark hair and a lab coat turned and froze. Her eyes widened in shock. "Hey!" she shouted to the others. "There's someone out here." Within seconds, two more people joined her. A tall man with glasses and a shorter one with a camera hanging from his neck. All three stared at Kayla as she stepped into full view. The woman stepped forward slowly, her voice cautious. "Are you okay? Are you lost?" Kayla's translator buzzed softly in her ear as it worked to understand the language. She waited a second, then replied, her voice calm but careful. "My name is Kayla. I am not from here. I need your help." The three scientists exchanged uncertain glances. The woman seemed to take the lead. "I'm Dr. Mila Reyes. This is Jordan, and that's Avi. You're not from around here, are you?" Kayla gave a faint smile. "No, I come from far away." "Very far?" The group looked at each other again, this time with wonder instead of fear. Togo walked up to Mila and sat politely at her feet, tail wagging. Mila bent down and scratched his head. "Where'd you find this one?" she asked Kayla. "He found me," Kayla replied. "He's the reason I'm still alive." Jordan stepped forward, curiosity overcoming his caution. "You're saying you're an alien? From another planet?" Kayla nodded. "Yes, I crashed here during an escape. My ship is destroyed. I have nowhere else to go." Avi adjusted his camera, clearly, itching to start recording, but Mila held up a hand. "Let's take this slow. Kayla, you're welcome to stay with us. We don't have much, but we can offer food, water, and shelter." Kayla felt her shoulders relax. The fear inside her didn't vanish, but it faded a little. She stepped closer and accepted a bottle of water Mila offered. "Thank you. I'm grateful." That evening, Kayla sat with the humans around a small campfire. They asked her questions, and she answered what she could without revealing too much. She told them of her home, of a peaceful world overtaken by force. She spoke of fleeing in the middle of the night, of crashing into the trees, of surviving with Togo's help. She didn't mention the Jara Syndicate, not yet. She needed to be sure she could trust them completely. The fire crackled quietly as the stars came out above them. Mila passed Kayla a small plate of food. "So what now?" she asked gently. "Do you want to go home?" Kayla looked up at the sky. Her heart ached with longing for Nuvira, for her family, for her people. "I don't know," she said. "I came here with nothing. But now, maybe I've found a new path." Togo lay beside her, snoring softly. The night air was cool, but Kayla felt warm. For the first time since the crash, she didn't feel alone. She had found people who listened, who cared. The journey ahead was still uncertain, but for now she had taken her first step toward something bigger than survival. She had found connection, and that gave her hope. The next few days passed quickly. For Kayla and her new human companions, with the help of Dr. Mila, Jordan, and Avi, she began to repair pieces of her broken technology using their tools and supplies. They worked carefully, often late into the night, combining Kayla's alien knowledge with Earth's simple but clever systems. The group had grown close, eating meals together, sharing stories, even laughing at times. Kayla felt something she hadn't in a long time: comfort. Togo never left her side, always watching the trees, alert and protective. His trust in the humans had helped her open up to them, and in return they had given her kindness and support. But deep inside, Kayla knew that peace would not last. One morning, while running diagnostics on the repaired scanner, Kayla's heart sank. The signal she detected was unmistakable. A ship was approaching Earth. Not one of her allies, not her people, but the Jara Syndicate. Somehow they had traced the crash signal. They had found her. She stared at the screen in silence before calling Mila and the others. "They're coming," she said simply. "The ones who destroyed my home. The ones who want me gone." The group gathered quickly, concern growing as Kayla explained the danger. The Jara Syndicate did not believe in negotiation or peace. If they landed on Earth, they would not hesitate to harm anyone who stood in their way. Mila looked at Kayla with steady eyes. Then we won't let them. Jordan nodded, his face pale but determined. You helped us, now it's our turn. Even Avi, usually quiet, stepped forward. What do we need to do? Kayla felt a wave of gratitude rise in her chest. These people had no reason to fight for her, and yet they stood beside her without hesitation. We need to confuse their sensors, she explained. Their technology is strong, but they struggle in natural environments. The forest might give us an edge. With Kayla's guidance, they began placing small makeshift devices throughout the woods, decoys that would send out false signals to confuse the enemy. They worked fast, splitting into teams and communicating by radio. Togo helped, carrying lightweight parts in his mouth and alerting them to anything strange in the area. Kayla watched him with pride. He was more than a companion now. He was her protector, her guide, her friend. On the third day, the sky changed. A low hum rolled through the clouds, and a shadow appeared above the trees. The Jara ship had arrived. It was large and dark, shaped like a blade cutting through the sky. It hovered briefly, then dropped into a nearby clearing, smashing trees beneath its weight. The ground shook. Birds scattered. The air felt colder. Kayla stood at the edge of the forest with Mila and Jordan, watching the scene unfold. It's time, she said. The plan began. Kayla sent out the pulse from her scanner, activating the decoys. At first, the Jara soldiers spread out, scanning for her presence, weapons ready, but they quickly became confused, chasing echoes and false signals. Mila and Jordan took their places, ready to guide Kayla if needed. Avi kept a watch from a high tree, using his camera lens to track movement. Togo stayed close to Kayla, growling, low whenever he sensed danger. But the syndicate wasn't fooled for long. A commander in silver armor gave a sharp command, and the soldiers turned toward Kayla's real location. They've locked onto us, she said, her voice steady. We need to move. Just as they turned to run, a group of soldiers appeared through the trees surrounding them. Surrender, the commander ordered, his voice rough through the translator. You cannot escape. Kayla stepped forward, lifting her chin. I won't let you harm this planet. If it's me you want, take me, but leave them alone. Togo growled, stepping in front of her. The soldiers laughed. One aimed a weapon at the dog. No, Kayla shouted, heart pounding. But before anything could happen, sirens blared in the distance. Bright lights appeared through the trees. Earth vehicles, police, military, rescue teams rushed in. Mila and Jordan had secretly called for backup, and now it had arrived. It was large and dark, shaped like a blade cutting through the sky. It hovered briefly, then dropped into a nearby clearing, smashing trees beneath its weight. The ground shook. Birds scattered. The air felt colder. Kayla stood at the edge of the forest with Mila and Jordan, watching the scene unfold. It's time, she said. The plan began. Kayla sent out the pulse from her scanner, activating the decoys. At first, the Jara soldiers spread out, scanning for her presence, weapons ready, but they quickly became confused, chasing echoes and false signals. Mila and Jordan took their places, ready to guide Kayla if needed. Avi kept a watch from a high tree, using his camera lens to track movement. Togo stayed close to Kayla, growling, low whenever he sensed danger. But the syndicate wasn't fooled for long. A commander in silver armor gave a sharp command, and the soldiers turned toward Kayla's real location. They've locked onto us, she said, her voice steady. We need to move. Just as they turned to run, a group of soldiers appeared through the trees surrounding them. Surrender, the commander ordered, his voice rough through the translator. You cannot escape. Kayla stepped forward, lifting her chin. I won't let you harm this planet. If it's me you want, take me, but leave them alone. Togo growled, stepping in front of her. The soldiers laughed. One aimed a weapon at the dog. No, Kayla shouted, heart pounding. But before anything could happen, sirens blared in the distance. Bright lights appeared through the trees. Earth. Vehicles, police, military, rescue teams rushed in. Mila and Jordan had secretly called for backup, and now it had arrived. The Jara soldiers turned in confusion. They hadn't expected resistance from a planet they considered primitive. Kayla used the moment to act. With a burst of energy from her repaired scanner, she disabled the soldiers' helmets, breaking their communication. The syndicate panicked. In the chaos, one of the ships began to lift off. The commander growled something in his own tongue before disappearing into the trees. When the danger passed, Earth authorities surrounded Kayla and her friends, weapons lowered but eyes wide with shock. Mila stepped forward to explain. Kayla held her hands up in peace. "I'm not your enemy," she said. "I only wish to protect this world and stop those who would harm it." Her words were translated and repeated. Slowly, the tension eased. In the days that followed, Earth began to understand what had happened. Scientists and leaders met with Kayla. She shared only what was safe to reveal, enough to explain her presence and the danger from beyond. Togo became something of a hero, appearing in photos and news clips beside her. People seemed to trust the alien girl who had been saved by a dog. One evening, Kayla stood with Mila, Jordan, Avi, and Togo beneath the stars. The night was calm again. "You could leave now," Mila said. "Your allies might find you." Kayla looked at her friends, then down at Togo. He wagged his tail. "I could," she said, "but Earth has given me more than I expected. A second chance. A place to belong." As she looked to the sky, Kayla knew the journey wasn't over. There would be more to face, more to learn, but she no longer felt lost. With Togo beside her, and friends around her, she had found something worth staying for. A home, a future, a bond that reached beyond the stars.